as people are still coming in. We had over 100 people sign up, register for this meeting. I think there's a lot of interest about the parallel trail. We're excited that it's coming. All right. Well, my name is Bruce Wright. I'm with Fairfax Alliance for Better Bicycling. Thank you all for joining us tonight. With me is Alexis Glenn, who is our co-host, who's helping out with admitting people and trying to keep track of questions in the chat. We've also got Susan Shaw with VDOT, Heidi Mitter with VDOT, and Justin McNall, is it? Yeah, with VDOT, who will be doing the presentations, and Michelle Holland, who's the public out face for VDOT and the mega projects. But before we do that, I wanted to just mention a couple of upcoming events. This year, we got a grant to do Learn to Ride classes and a few other skills classes. So Yvette White with the FABB board is organizing that. And the first class will be at Mason, April 1st, and it's already sold out. Part of the reason it's sold out is our grant is allowing us to subsidize those classes. So I think as there's a minimal fee. We'll be holding several more of those throughout the year. And if you have friends or neighbors who want to learn how to ride, not kids, but adults, then stay tuned because we'll have several more of those classes. This year, for the first time, the folks in Tyson's want to do a bike ride. So they're going to do a little loop around the mall called the Pedal with Pedals. It's part of the Cherry Blossom Festival. And so that's Sunday, April 2nd. And we've got several folks who've signed up to be ride marshals. Thanks for doing that. And it's going to be it's a very short ride. So it's mostly for kids and families. But it should be a start of good things in Tyson's. You know, Tyson's has struggled to be a bike-friendly place. And slowly it's coming along. And this is great that we've got the cooperation of the folks at the mall. On May 7th is the Tour to 100 Mill that FABB is co-sponsoring with the 100 Mill District. Supervisor Alcorn is enthusiastic about this ride. And so that will be, registration for that will start up shortly. And of course, Bike to Work Day is May 19th. And we will be needing some volunteers to go to some of the pit stops. So we're going to send out a note soon to recruit folks, probably use something like, I can't remember the name, one of those sites that allows us to recruit volunteers. And then what we'll be talking about tonight is the I66 parallel trail. That will be open soon, we hope, and we'll hear more about that. And we want to make sure to celebrate that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. At the same time, the Mount Vernon Memorial Highway Trail is opening. And the opening of these two trails are going to open up two incredible loops, one of which is the I-60, what I'm calling right now the I-66 loop. And that is, if you look at the I-66 trail, you've got the Fairfax County Parkway Trail up to the W&OD trail, back down to the I-66 trail. And cyclists love trails, or love loops rather, and trails. So these will be two really nice loops for folks to take, as well as there's just a cross-county trail loop. And this is a loop down Stringfellow, Braddock, and up, not quite sure which road that is. But so there's some great opportunities there. And let me get back to my agenda here. And then the bigger 70-mile loop that includes the Mount Vernon Memorial Highway trail, when that opens, that's this segment right down here up to Route 1. So that's going to include Route 1, Lorton Road up to Route 123, up to Fairfax County Parkway, up to the W&OD Trail, 4-mile run trail, I think part of the Custis maybe. No, I don't think it does do the Custis. And then down to the Mount Vernon Trail. And so these are critical links that are being finished off. So anyway, those are coming. Fairfax County is also conducting the Gallows Road corridor multimodal study, and we've got a couple of folks from FABB that are looking into that. Gallows Road is a key north-south link that is just not bike friendly, especially across the Beltway near Innova. And so we hope there will be a bridge over 495 along Route 50 that'll connect with Gallows Road, and then that whole Gallows Road corridor needs to be more bike friendly. So with that, let's go right ahead with the I66 parallel trail presentation. Susan Shaw is the Megaprojects director. We're really pleased to have her come once again to brief us. We've worked with Susan over the years to figure out what's happening with VDOT with this trail. Heidi Miller is the Northern Virginia District Office Bicycle and Pedestrian Coordinator. She'll be tag teaming with Susan, and let me get back to my screen just briefly. From Fairfax County, we have, and I'm going to destroy this, but Chi-Ching Zhang.
Yes, it's Yu-Qing Xiong. Hi.
What's that?
It's Yu-Qing Xiong.
Chi-Ching Xiong. Thank you, Chi-Ching. And she is with Fairfax County working on this project, and we'll be here to answer any of your questions. So, all right, go ahead, Justin. Sorry for that.
Oh, no worries. Didn't mean to grab it from you prematurely there.
Nope.
It's the moment.
Yeah, as he's pulling it up, I'll just mention that also we have from our design build team, Rich Clifton with us tonight, and I think Nancy Smith will be joining us maybe later in the meeting. And then I'm gonna tag team before we go to Heidi. I will turn it over to Bruce Barnett, who's part of our design team here, to go through some of the details. So you want to go to the next slide, Justin, and just, I think everybody is aware, you know, that this trail sits in the context of a much larger project. So there's a whole bunch of other stuff that got done, about $2.3 billion on a 22.5-mile corridor. We've got 2 park and ride lots that are out on the western end. Those are all open to traffic, and the larger, you know, facility in terms of the express lanes themselves did open in November, just before Thanksgiving. And we converted the entire corridor is now all HOV3 to use the express lanes and travel for free. But I will note, as you can see at the bottom there, and I think you all are well aware, construction activities are continuing through 2023. In terms of our contract, we have an August 1st date for completion. And so that's what we're continuing to work towards. And there are a number of elements. The trail is one of them, but there's also some other transportation improvements that are still underway. The bridge at Gallows Road is a major element. Nutley Street, we just made a big traffic shift here a week or so ago, moving into the final configuration, and there's still a lot of construction work around that interchange. So, you know, as you drive the corridor, you can still see there's quite a bit of activity left, including some final paving, because we did run out of warm enough weather to do paving in November. That was one of the complications when you finish right in the dead of winter, so to speak. So, all right. In terms of the shared use path, on the next slide, just overall, that's our big map of what we've been doing. You know, 11 miles of trail that we're building, and there's some of this, and you might recall that we're partnering with various groups along the corridor to implement some elements of these trails where the right-of-way was constrained, or there were constraints, you know, immediately adjacent to the corridor. And so, you know, we'll talk about, you know, the details of those segments. We are anticipating kind of a segmental opening. So as safe, usable segments of the trail are completed, we'll be looking to open those and make them available. And in addition to, the trails along 66, we also have improved pedestrian facilities on the new bridges that have been constructed as part of the project.
Susan, I just rode from Merrifield to get back here and noticed that the Cedar Lane trail is paved on either side. It was just really rough rock. So that was fantastic to see that. Now the county just needs to pave the rest of that up to Cottage, but good job there.
Good. Yes, I mean, we'll hope to just keep, ticking off more of those as we move along. So some of these are being, and you'll see on the next slide. So Bruce and I are covering kind of what is being included with the Transform 66 project proper. And then Heidi is going to cover some of those projects that are being delivered either, outside of the project by VDOT or by others. I think Yuching has some information too about there's a few areas where the county is either the county or the park or the county parks, Fairfax County Parks are doing some elements of the trails. And so you can just see that these are the main sections that are being done within the project. All the interchanges, the sections that we'll, cover. We also have a piece along Fair Lake Circle that's still being worked on, an area of Compton Road that passes under 66 on the west end of the corridor, and then some trails along Braddock Walney Road and into the EC Lawrence Park entrance there. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Bruce, and he's basically going to start, I believe, at the east end of the corridor, and we're going to work our way west. And so we'll talk about, what we're anticipating to open. We kind of split this into what would be available by mid-May opening, and then what's after mid-May. Now there's, as elements are usable segments, safe segments are available, we're going to open them, so we're not, that you may see some stuff opening before May. That's what we currently anticipate, but that's how we split it up for this presentation. And so with that, I'm going to hopefully turn it over to Bruce.
Thanks, Susan. So yeah, as Susan mentioned, the next 12 or 13 slides is really kind of walking through the corridor that's part of the 66 parallel trail. And we've kind of color coded it. So the elements in green are expected to be open by May 19th, the Bike to Walk Day. And then the orange are items where we're still working on different things that may delay that. So and then the dashed lines are the sections that are outside of the 66 project. So that would be existing facilities already out there, other projects being worked on, which Heidi and Yuching may go into more details on later, and then future connections that will be built later on. So starting at Gallows Road, on the right side of the screen, you'll see that we're connecting to the shared use path on Gallows Road. The shared use path on Gallows will be on the west side of Gallows Road. So there's no crossing to connect to the parallel trail. From that point, the trail will go to Cedar Lane. And as you mentioned, the Cedar Lane project, the trail has been paved recently. The connection on Cedar Lane will be also on the east side. So there's again no crossing of Cedar Lane, itself to make that connection. From the Cedar Lane connection, we would then continue to Nutley Street, and you can see that that's in green. So we expect that to be open by May 19th for the Bike to Walk Day. Along that section between Nutley and Cedar Lane, there's a couple of other connections. There's a connection at Eunice Park, and there's also one at Eunice Drive that will provide additional access to the parallel trail. And then at Nutley Street itself, those are going to be the connection north and south. The connection to the south, as you can see on the map, is orange. So there's still some additional work that needs to be done on some of the grade separated crossings to get around the ramps and through the interchange itself. And then at Nutley Street, the project, the 66 project, will be connecting to the Vienna Metro Trail project that Heidi will go into later. And you can see that with the dashed green line at the top left.
Bruce, excuse me for interrupting. Is
Yeah.
this map available? I'll either do screen captures or something, because this is really what we're looking for.
Yeah, we can provide this. Justin can provide it after the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Justin, you want to go to the next slide? So we've also added in some photos of where we stand today. The photo on the left is from March 7th. And as you can see, the trail access, this is a photo of the trail access going into Eunice Drive, from Eunice Drive going into the shared use path. And then the photo on the right is a photo taken from Delwood Drive, looking north on Nutley Street, that shows the trail coming down grade and then passing underneath Nutley Street itself. You want to go to the next? So this is an aerial image of the Nutley Street interchange. The photo we were just looking at is in the top right corner. You can see Delwood comes down and makes a hard 90-degree right. And that's where the photo was taken for that. And you can see that there's a grade separated passing going underneath Nutley Street and coming out near the pond at the top left side. Thank you, Justin. And then from that side, the trail would continue over and connect to the Vienna Metro Trail project that's going on, which will be just off the screen here. Or you can also go underneath the ramps and pass underneath that. The trail then loops around, goes across 66, loops back around again, goes underneath underneath Nutley Street again, back around, and then it'll go underneath the ramp and come down to go south on Nutley Street. So going to the next image. So again, starting on the right side of the screen, you will see that the Vienna Metro Trail project will tie back into Blake Lane. The 66 Transform project picks up that connection at Blake Lane, and on the west side of Blake Lane, the connection then travels to 123. Through that section, again, you see that we have a couple of other connections at Bushman Drive and Platten Drive. Again, that's in green, and we expect that to be open by May 19th. At 123, the connection from 123 to the west will start coming down from the south. The shared use path within the interchange itself is still under construction with some of the grade separations that we will show in a couple of slides, and we'll go down and tie to the City of Fairfax projects on the south of 66.
Bruce, there's a gap there at the top along 123. Is there going to be a connection with that green part, or will we have to wait for that orange part just below to connect?
It's an existing trail at White Granite. So we're tying into we're tying into an existing trail at that location.
So we would cross that grade there for now anyway.
For now, until the orange is built, when you could go,
All right, thank you.
Under. So then continuing from 123 to the west, we go underneath Germantown Road. We're also adding facilities on Germantown Road as well. we have the connection at Phoenix Drive. The Phoenix Drive connection will then loop back around to tie into the Germantown Road improvements that are being made. And there's also a City of Fairfax project going on to that will tie in from the south to all improvements. Continuing on to the west, we go under Waples Mill Road. There's a connection just on the west of Waples Mill Road that will tie to existing trails, a community trail that will also tie to the Waples Mill improvements that we're making as well. And then continuing on to the Route 50, we tie in Route 50 at Fairfax Farms Road. And then we also have improvements that are being made through the interchange that will again be grade separated and come out on the south side of 50 that would tie to Fairfax County Park Authority project that's improving the trail on Random Hills Park. That would then tie to the Random Hills Road trail that would continue to the west. Justin, can you go to the next slide, please? So this is some photos of where we're standing, where we're at right now, coming off of the Platten Drive access. The photo to the left is looking to the west towards 123, and then the photo on the right is looking to the east towards Blake Lane. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the parallel trail will look like. You know, it's still under construction and everything, but that's the status of it right now.
Bruce, quick question. On the photo on the left, will there be a fence atop the concrete or not?
No, that.
Okay.
We looked at that originally, but there was concerns with that. So what we ended up doing was increasing the height of the concrete barrier. Mm-hmm. The standard height of those barriers are 32 inches. This is 50 inch.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
Yep. You want to go to the next slide, Justin? So again, these are some photos. This is coming off of the Fairfax Farms Road at Route 50. The photo on the left is looking back to the east as the trail comes up to 50. And then the photo on the right is looking at it as it goes under the ramps at Route 50 to continue through the interchange. And as you can see, there's still construction going on in this area. So these are not finished or completed at this point, but it kind of gives you an idea of the status. So this is a rendering of the 123 interchange. You can see the shared use path in orange as it makes its way through the interchange. The connection, as Justin is running through, you can see as grade separated as it goes across the 123 interchange. The only at-grade crossing in this interchange would be at the express lanes ramp, which is signalized. Otherwise, we were able to get all grade separated crossings at 123. And then it would also, in the top left, it will also connect to Rosehaven as well to provide additional access. You want to go to the next slide, Justin? So again, this is another rendering. This is the Route 50 interchange. And on the top, you can see the connection coming up to Fairfax Farms. This at the very top, you can see the grade separation that we had the photo of going underneath the ramps. As it comes out, it would then come around, go underneath 50 westbound, and then underneath 50 eastbound, cycle around and go over top of 66. And then it kind of comes down grade and goes underneath the ramp for 50 for 66 eastbound to 50 eastbound. And then that is the tie-in point of what would tie into the Random Hills Park Trail. Next slide. So continuing on on the right side again, this is the dashed line shows the existing trail that would be on Random Hills Road. There's also improvements being made on Post Forest Drive that Heidi will talk about shortly. And then connecting to the existing shared use path on West Ox Road and Fair Lakes Parkway. And then the Fair Lakes Circle portion of it, which is in orange, is currently being finalized, the design of that. There's actually an existing shared use path on the north side of Fair Lakes Circle. We are, as this project, are adding another shared use path on the south side so that there won't need to be crossing of Fair Lakes Circle to have that continuous loop as we come around and use the parallel trail. So if you're familiar with the area, this will come up to where Jason's Deli is, and it will do like a switchback to come upgrade and then come along the Fairfax County Parkway ramp behind the Walmart and the Fair Lake Shopping Center. It'll then continue to the west towards Stringfellow. There's a connection at Stringfellow to come down and tie in to Stringfellow Road itself, with a connection going underneath 66 that would also tie into the Bob Ann Trail, which is an existing trail that we are reconstructing as it's getting shifted a little bit to the south. And going back onto the north side of 66, the trail would continue towards Route 28. There's a connection to Veronica Road, as well as Audrey Drive, to provide additional access to that area as well. As we approach 28, it then elevates and we'll have a bridge going over top of the ramps at 28, and then cycle through 28 with a connection to Braddock Walney, which is, you can see there at the top left, and then also to 28 southbound, which would connect to 29. So can you go to the next slide, Justin? So this is photos taken from Heron Drive, which is just at the approach to the 28, and the photo on the left shows the bridge structure that would be carrying the trail over top of the ramp, and then the photo on the right is looking back towards the east and shows that, you know, this is it's grade separated from 66, and you're elevated through this area. So this is another rendering of 28 that shows, again, in orange, you can see the grade separated trail coming through the interchange. At the top right, you can see where the trail comes in and has the bridge that goes over top of the ramps. It then continues to the west, going underneath both north and south 28. Once it comes out from underneath 28, it splits. It has if you go straight, you would continue on to the Braddock Walney Trail. And then if you go to the right at the split, you would cycle around and loop back up and over top of 66 to be able to go south towards 29. And again, great, it's all grade separated. So this is the last little piece of the map. You can see the little orange bit on the very right is the Braddock Road shared use path that's being constructed as part of the project. It ties in at Newton Patton Drive, where we would have a crosswalk of Braddock Road to tie into future facilities at that location. And then if you were to continue just off the screen, if you were to continue to the south, you can see that there's existing trail on 28 and 29 that can be used that would continue on to the west. And then the last little bit, and Heidi will get into more detail on this, but there's the Compton Road section that's taking the trail along Compton Road and going underneath 66. The 66 project is building the portion that is under the bridge, but the rest is another project that Heidi will get into. So so the photo on the left is looking at the Braddock-Walney shed use path as it goes across the bridge over 28. This path will, on the east end, will start at the parking lot where the EC Lawrence parking, they have a small parking area off of Walney Road. And then we'll continue, like I said before, towards Newton Patton to the east. And it'll be a continuous trail through that area. The photo on the right is the section of trail that's being constructed under 66 along Compton Road. And as you can see, that's still under construction. So this is just kind of a listing of the access points that we kind of touched on going through the mapping. And it doesn't include every access because there's a lot of points along the interchanges and overpasses that include other connections coming in, but it kind of lists out the ones along the main part of the trail. So Susan, you want to pick back up with the maintenance?
Sure, thanks, Bruce. Yeah, so VDOT will be maintaining the trail where it's within VDOT right-of-way. We do have pedestrian counters that are being installed as part of the project. I think there's 8 locations that we're providing. There will be lighting at the overpasses where they're required. You know, we have a lot of, to get that grade separation. And so that's going to be provided, and then barriers and fences where required. And you can see, like in this photo, where the trail is elevated. This isn't exactly this, but where the trail is elevated, there'll be a railing like what you see there, mounted on for protection for the cyclists. And then if it's at grade, we have that 50-inch high concrete barrier that Bruce talked about. And, you know, part of the decision there was if we had provided fencing, we had to mount it behind the concrete wall, and it took up space that we didn't really want to take up. We tried to make the trail as wide as we could within that footprint. I saw there was a question in chat. But do you want us to take questions, Bruce, as we're going along, or? All right, I'll just keep going. And just
Yeah, we can, Susan. I couldn't see the questions. I saw them coming in, but I couldn't see them. So.
Okay, and it came up and then it left. So now I don't know what it was.
We'll try to answer them as they come up in the chat if we can.
Okay.
Are you talking, do you want me to read the 2 regarding maintenance?
Sure.
Okay, Sonia is asking, will the edge of the trail remain as gravel?
Yes, that's the intent. And there's some areas where we actually used millings in those areas, you know, from the pavement demolition. And then there's some areas where it's gravel, but that is the plan.
Okay, Mark Warno asks, does maintenance include regular sweeping of debris?
I will need to check on that. I don't know. I mean, I think it's whatever we normally do. I don't think it does. but we'll check and see on that. And then just a
Sorry.
note, it does not include winter maintenance.
Randy Bivens is asking, how will trail maintenance get reported? I'm assuming that means reporting the needs to VDOT.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a need for trail maintenance, I would say I would use our main VDOT email or phone number. I think it's the 4 road.
1-800-4-ROAD, FORROAD. Yeah.
Or
And
my
we are-
VDOT.
Yeah, we are going to have signage out there, and Bruce, you can correct on this, but with mile markers on the trail, so that you'll be able, I'm Bruce Barnett, be able to report, where it is.
Yes.
Okay, so, that would be really helpful to our maintenance team if, you can let people know.
Why don't we have Heidi go ahead and do her presentation before we get into too many more questions, and then have time at the end.
All right, and let's see, the next slide is on the non-motorized traffic counters, and those are the locations that we've identified. And so that will provide information that I guess this will go to Heidi. So, and I don't know what she'll do with it, but we will know how many people are out there. And so with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to, this is just that we're having some new facilities. Some of those are already open. And then there's some that we're still working on getting open. And now I'm going to turn it over to, one last one. So what are the steps? I mean, you could see the state of construction out there. It varies, but we are working to get, complete paving. Much of it is paved. I mean, I know the weather's getting nice. People are just starting to use the trail. I've seen that a few places, whether it's cordoned off or not. But we do need to get lighting in those crossings, in the culvert crossings. We're working on the sign installation, and that signs that are associated with the trail itself. And we've been doing some safety walks that include our, trails people as well, making sure that we, haven't overlooked anything or that there's any concerns out there prior to opening. And so, as we said, we're looking forward to getting some segments open. Probably, I think there's a couple segments in April, around from Cedar Lane to Nutley Street, and then Blake Lane to Route 123. And then, we're just going to keep working to open segments as they are ready and get through this process.
Thank you, Susan. I didn't mean to rush you there. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
All right.
Now I'm turning it to Heidi.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Susan and Bruce. So I'm going to highlight 3 to 4 projects that are the delivered by others projects. These are, as Bruce mentioned, in the 66 parallel trail alignment. This is not meant to be a thorough overview. Each of these projects has had their own design public hearings in the past year or two, and they each have a project website with extensive information, which I can provide the links to. So this is just briefly. The Vienna Metro Station Bicycle and Pedestrian Project is the segment between Blake Lane and near the Nutley interchange at the top entrance of the Vienna Metro Station. This project is essentially 2 projects, an ultimate project that I'll discuss on the next slide, and an interim project, which was envisioned as a quick build and consists of a shared lane. In the top image, you can faintly see some yellow lines on Sutton Road, just off of Blake Lane at Oakton High School. That will be segments of shared lanes with sharrows. And then the pink will be buffered bike lanes from Sutton Road up to Country Creek Road. So a buffered bike lane in each direction. And then Country Creek Road and Virginia Center Boulevard along the top of the image in cyan there will be a two-way cycle track that is in road. And that has these two Zikla platforms, as they're called, in the image below. These are essentially modular bus platforms that will be in the cycle track that allow cyclists to ramp up and over and allow pedestrians to get from the sidewalk to the bus, which will be located in the travel lane next to the cycle track. And bus riders will wait on the sidewalk until the bus comes, and then they will board, and there will be yielding required by cyclists as they're boarding. And this project is aimed to be opened by mid-May, by Bike to Work Day. Next slide, please. Now, the Vienna Metro Station Bike Ped project, the ultimate project, is in design right now. There was a design public hearing, and construction is estimated to start in 2025 with an opening early 2027. This project will be building a permanent shared use path on Sutton Road from the connection at Blake Lane all the way up to the intersection at Country Creek. And then there will be a permanent two-way cycle track behind the curb on Country Creek and Virginia Center Boulevard, leading to the metro station and connecting to the shared use path being constructed by Transform 66. So the interim project will be there and present throughout the development and construction of this ultimate project. Next slide, please. Then the top project is the Random Hills Post Forest Drive Shared Use Path. There will be construction of shared use path along Post Forest Drive between the existing segment near West Ox to the intersection of Random Hills Road, and then up on the east side of Random Hills Road, connecting to the new park and ride garage that is being constructed right now. And it will tie into the existing shared use path. That is also in design, with construction anticipated to start in early 2025 and last just over a year. There'll also be some intersection improvements. With most of these projects, there will be crosswalk upgrades, signage marking upgrades, and intersection improvements. Then we have Compton Road Shared Use Path all the way on the western side of the county. Transform 66 is building the segment under the bridge of 66, but this project will be building shared use paths extending from that north and south of the bridge, the 66 bridge over top, connecting the Cub Run trail to the Bull Run Special Events Center access road. There was a design public hearing held last year, and construction will start in 2026 with a duration of 20 months. That should be the extent of my update.
All right, thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Before we get into other questions, I have a quick one regarding Random Hills Park. So when the I66 trail comes down to connect to Random Hills, there's that little park. And I think there is a small segment of old trail there, but do you know what the status of that is, and will there be an interim connection there? I think that's Park Authority property.
Yes, I will pass that to Yu Ching with Fairfax County to answer.
Thank you, Heidi. Actually, our project manager for this project from the county, Will Stainhill, he just joined the meeting also. So Will, do you want to speak up for the most lately update?
Sure, I could talk about the Park Authority piece here. So you guys are correct. There is a piece of existing trail there. Unfortunately, that doesn't quite meet the standards that we're building the trail to right now. and it does not provide the connectivity that we're looking to provide with the Park Trail project. So the Park Trail project will run along Random Hills Park Trail. And what's not really shown very well here is it's kind of going to snake around in an S curve because we have to avoid a lot of sensitive wetland areas. This is a low-lying area. So part of the reason why this section of the project is lagging behind is because we needed to make some design adjustments in order to not negatively impact that wetland area in the park there. So we are pushing towards starting construction soon. We still need to bid the project out to a contractor, and then are predicting on the conservative estimate an 8-month construction schedule. So hopefully we'll be able to, if the weather's nice, be able to complete the project earlier, but we can't always plan for the best. We usually have to plan for the worst there. And so this project should have significant completion early next spring.
So it's about a year away then.
Yes, yeah, it's about a year out from now.
Okay, all right, thank you. Alexis,
Yes. Oh, you just went on mute, Bruce.
do we have questions in the chat that we wanted to get to?
Sure. Yeah, there's a few that that Heidi didn't get a chance to answer before, or that weren't answered during the maintenance section. So I'll read those. Before I do that, if anyone's curious, the recording is going to be available on FABB's YouTube channel, and we'll share out that link in our bike newsletter and on our social media channels. So if you're looking for the recording after the fact, that's where it will be. And if anyone wants to ask a question verbally, raise your hand and we'll call on you. If you're on the phone, you can press *6 to come off mute. So I'll go ahead and read the 1 or 2 questions that haven't already been answered here. From Kay Schwartz, will there be continuous sidewalks on Nutley from Hermosa to Marshall on both north and southbound sides?
Alexis? Oh,
Yes.
I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Now I can hear you.
No, I'm sorry. You had just posed a question.
Yes. The question is, will there be a continuous sidewalk on Nutley from Hermosa to Marshall on both the north and southbound sides? I'm not sure if I should direct that to VDOT or FCDOT.
I do not know the answer to that. I don't know if there's somebody who can speak to that.
I don't think there's sidewalk on both sides. That's continuous.
There's continuous sidewalk on the east side. The west side is what's used to incorporate the shared use path and the grade separated crossings.
Correct.
So you'll have your choice, but each one will be a distinct way of crossing.
If I may, the sidewalk, as Justin said, is on the east side. However, there is a small portion where you can see at the bottom of this photograph where the sidewalk actually has to go through that, the S curves down to get underneath the ramp to the 66 eastbound. So the shared use path and the sidewalk are together at that point. And then they'll come back up and then be on the east side from there down. So Justin, if you go to the west side of the roadway from the loop ramp, nope, down. Okay, past this loop ramp, there are no pedestrian facilities on the west side from this loop ramp to Saintsbury.
All right.
Alexis, one of the questions, not related to the bike and pedestrian access, but the one from Kay Schwartz asking when will the barrels on northbound Baden be removed from the I-66 bridge? And that the lane has become supplemental metro parking. Got confirmation from Rich and Nancy from FAM that there is no parking on the Vaden Bridge. Rich, I don't know if you can shed light on when the barrels will be removed. I mean, I'm assuming after they're done with all the construction in that area.
Yeah, we still have a little bit of curb work to do north of the north garage driveway. And then, of course, final paving is required throughout Vaden Drive. So obviously that's an area where we're waiting on weather. It'll likely be fairly early in the spring, so I would expect we'll finish up Vaden. We'll say by end of April.
Susan, I have a question for you. You mentioned your ultimate deadline is August 1st. Is that what we should expect to be the projected finish date for all parts of the parallel trail?
I would say
responsibility of VDOT.
yeah, that is our current contractual schedule.
Okay.
So I can't say more than that. Sometimes things change. But that's the current schedule. So yes, those would need to be done based on the current contract.
All right, thank you. I know a lot of people are excited about the whole trail coming online, but we're just going to have to be patient until everything gets done. This is a massive project, and there's so many of these grade separated changes, or interchanges, that it really is setting the standard, I think, for mega projects like this for creating really good trail access. Alexis, any other questions?
Yes, I think this is for our friends at the Park Authority from Sonia. What are plans to improve the trail through Cub Run on the western end of the trail? It's on Park Authority property.
So are you referring to the trail at the Stone Road going through the Park Authority parkland? Is that the?
I see a dotted line from where, what is it? Newton Patton Drive that goes through Cub Run. Come down a little bit west. I was thinking over there.
Yeah, that's a trail segment that the county is still looking at. They're currently we're still trying to finalize the alignment and also the funding. So there's at this point there's no plan yet, but we'll be updating the public when we have a plan. But yeah, we're still finalizing the concept there.
Is there a general time frame in mind, or it's sort of open-ended?
At this moment, it's open-ended because there's a bit of challenging to go through the land with some of the restrictions there and also the landscaping there. So we're still looking at different options. So there's no real schedule at this moment.
Alexis, do you want to handle Chris's question? Chris French.
Sure. So another question on Vaden. When will the sidewalk on the west side of the bridge be reopened? This is the side of the bridge with the hot lane ramps.
We're not far from being able to do that. I know we have some issues with pedestrian signals. Beyond that, I don't know of a reason why we cannot get that reopened. But I need to verify that. I don't think there's any other construction activity. And I think the ped signals are the only issue. And we have a fix for that we could have that open very soon. I will make a note to push on that.
Great.
Thanks.
In that same vein, where will we be able to check if other portions of the trail have opened?
We'll get with Michelle, and I think we should, Michelle, maybe find some kind of a landing spot on our project website, and we could provide updates, and we can also make sure, FABB is aware, and so that you guys can push out,
Sure.
what the status is.
Sure.
As new segments are opened.
Okay.
Great. Looks like Heidi may have just answered Bethany's question, but I'll mention it here. You mentioned earlier there is an at-grade intersection on the 66 trail. She thinks at 29. With the express lane access, will there be a signal there or any other way to protect cyclists and pedestrians?
I think Bruce mentioned this at the 123 interchange.
Yeah.
Bruce, you said there would be a signal there.
Yes, that's correct.
Susan and Michelle, you mentioned trying to get this segment open before Bike to Work Day. Have you figured out a proposed date for the ribbon cutting? And I'll put a pitch in for a weekend day, because we want to get cyclists out there who can ride part of the trail as it's open. Has that come up, or do you want to talk about this offline?
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine, Michelle, if you want to take the lead. I mean, I'm open to, working with whoever. I think it is something that we would like to do. So, Michelle, if you want to.
I can follow up, Bruce, with you offline.
Okay.
It's definitely, once we do select a date, we want to make sure that that FABB in Fairfax County, everyone's involved to make sure that it's meeting the needs of the intended audience, which are going to be the users of the trail.
Great. All right, Bethany, any others?
So a few are coming in really quickly here. One moment. There's a recently paved connection at Bushman from the 66 trail to the sidewalk along Bushman. Looks great, but the connection does not include a curb cut that would allow bikes and pedestrians to get on the trail from the bike lane or crosswalk at this location. Any plans to complete this connection?
I know. Oh, go ahead, Bruce.
I was just going to say that had been coordinated with VDOT and would be a separate project from this one.
Yeah, Michelle, we might have to get back on that, because I know what you're referring to. And that crosswalk was added, I believe, maybe in coordination with the county through a slightly separate avenue. So we'll have to get a status update on that.
Okay, thanks. That's something I had talked with Chris Wells about probably, 3 years ago, and I thought he had indicated there were plans afoot to work on that. But anyway, I'd appreciate a follow-up. That'd be great. Thanks.
Great. It looks like Sonia, you have your hand up. Would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, I dropped one in the chat, but I think it got lost in the shuffle. I believe the trail runs along Newton Patton Drive in Centerville, if I'm not mistaken. And I was curious if there were plans to improve the facilities to have a trail along that road, or if it were just going to be expected to be on road. It's the pink part up top right of that slide. Yep. So right now I think it's just a regular neighborhood road, which is probably low volume, but was there going to be plans to actually create a trail in that segment?
That's one of Fairfax County's kind of future unfunded segments. So perhaps Yu-Ching has a response to that.
No, Heidi, you're right. So at the moment, there's no plan to upgrade that one since we decided to change the plan a little bit at the beginning of the project to use the existing path, upgrade the existing path going through Route 28 and Route 29, as you can see there. So more users can use the facility. So the Newton Patton Drive at the moment, we don't have a plan to upgrade that one.
So that's going to be the interim solution, or probably the solution for a while, is to use those two existing trails that you mentioned. Okay.
But is there an existing path through the neighborhood? I guess there's part. That's just along 29, right? But if you were cutting down towards the Cub Run Trail segment. Oh, I see. Oh, okay, because Newton Patton's north of that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's nothing along Newton Patton really. And at the end of Newton Patton, I don't think you can get through to Route 29. currently.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Sorry about that. I was confused.
First to your question, I was looking at Google Street View today, and that path coming southbound does not daylight onto Route 29 from the park. So I was trying to figure out that exact same piece of question too.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
It looks like there are sidewalks along Newton Patton.
Yeah. Alexis, anything else?
No, I see some comments on some other questions. Maybe a last call if anyone wants to come off mute and ask a question verbally. It looks like Tommy has just raised his hand. Can do one last question.
Tommy, before you go, if anyone else's question got lost in that long list of questions, go ahead and raise your hand. So go ahead, Tommy.
Yes. My questions regard connectivity to other trails. I guess probably one main thing is connection via Gallows Road to the W&OD trail. I guess right now Gallows Road does have bike lanes. However, they are on street and unprotected, and I guess not the most pleasant or safe to utilize. And I'm wondering, are there plans to improve, I guess, things like Gallows Road, or yeah, like for example, Gallows Road. I know that's technically outside of the jurisdiction of, I guess, this meeting, for example. Yeah, like, are there any plans to change Gallows Road between W&OD and the I66 trail?
Just if I could interject, there is, as I mentioned, there's a study going on looking at that whole section of Gallows Road and what needs to happen in the future, but that's pretty much long range. Heidi, I don't know if you have any thoughts about whether any short-term plans are in the works.
Well, there is a shared use path along Gallows. So I guess that is the intended connecting facility. I'm aware of that study, and myself and my colleagues are providing input on that study. I don't know of other improvements planned in the immediate term, besides using that shared use path.
You know, there is a way to get up to the trail from that intersection of 66 and Gallows. If you go up to the next block, which is Cottage, and you take a right and then take a left, so it's on the east side of Gallows, that road parallels almost all the way up to the trail. There's a little section that cuts through where the road ends, but I think there's a sidewalk. And so that is an option that's, I think, safer than those bike lanes on Gallows Road.
It's Sandberg Street.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, thanks.
Yep. Yeah, it is a tight little chute for that stretch of 150 feet or whatever it is when there's not roadway. It's probably 4-foot sidewalk, but
It'd be nice if that was
works.
improved someday. All right, is that it, Tommy?
Also regarding, well, I guess kind of the hole that we have between, I think, or not Vaden Drive, but a little bit before that, where there's kind of a hole between, like in the area where you have the Vienna metro station, there's a section where it's the temporary area where we have specifically the shared lane portion.
Sutton Drive, probably.
Yes.
Yes.
And I guess I am wondering, given that, well, from what I've experienced whenever I'm like biking with friends or family, they tend to steer clear of, I guess, even if something has a sharrow, it's often not very comfortable for them. And I actually biked along Sutton, or actually from Sutton Road all the way over to Nutley. And I was wondering, it seems there's enough width that there could be just a standard bike lane implemented. And I guess I was wondering, are there, I guess, reasons why, I guess, a sharrow was decided upon instead of like a proper bike lane, or I mean, even, or better yet, it's like a bike lane with like little like plastic bollards or protection? Because I guess I often think, would you expect like a 5-year-old child to like try to navigate using it?
Yeah, so that is on Sutton Road, and it is for only a portion of Sutton Road. So there will be buffered bike lanes that do start on Sutton Road. I know it's a little grainy, but the image shows the yellow portion that will be shared, and then buffered bike lanes will start later down Sutton Road. It was too constrained to have bike lanes, even basic bike lanes, because those have to be, you need about 5 feet on each side for that, so 10 feet of width at least, and that just wasn't present, at least for a quick build scenario. You know, we weren't able to move any curbs or dig up any land really, because that is kind of a different level of construction. But there will be signage and pavement markings, and there's also a comprehensive, safety study going on for Blake Lane that includes the intersection with Sutton. So it's not ideal, we acknowledge that, but in order to get something down in the very short term, that was what was possible.
All right, thanks, Heidi. Sean, you have a question.
Hey, good evening, everybody. So I actually had a question that's definitely outside of the scope of this conversation, and I understand that, and I'm not going to ask it anyway. And the question is, during the recent legislative session, Virginia DOT expressed opposition to a couple of bills, and I wanted to bring these to your attention, understanding that you guys may not have direct influence in this, but anyone I can talk to in VDOT would be great. So one of the bills was a bill that would allow cyclists to use, when pedestrians get the leading pedestrian interval, it would allow cyclists to also use that. And VDOT expressed concern about that, causing interactions both with pedestrians and with vehicles. And, after some consideration on that and some discussion, it seems like there's really no reason that would cause that sort of interaction. So that's one, is allowing cyclists to use the leading pedestrian interval. And then the second is an exemption for bicyclists to be able to, for bicyclists to not have to stop at stop signs, to be able to treat a stop sign as a yield sign, except in certain circumstances. And I understand that VDOT had some specific language that they had approved, that they worked with, that was going to work on that. But in the end, it sounded like the VDOT legislative representative did not support that. And so I was wondering if you were able to speak to that, and if not, if you can take some urging back from us that we would like to work to figure out how we can get the agency on board with that, so that we can hopefully get those passed in a future legislative session.
Sean, I'll say I'm aware of those bills. I was not aware of statements that VDOT made in opposition to them. Our legislative responses are generally coordinated through our central office, our statewide representatives in our central office. I will say that on the Idaho stop bill, that didn't it get changed so that it was jurisdiction by jurisdiction, that each locality would then be able to decide, so there'd be kind of a hodgepodge of conditions.
So
Is
there
that
were two bills. One, which I believe that VBF, Virginia Bicycling Federation, had worked closely with VDOT on. That was going to be a statewide authorization or a statewide, execution bill where it would automatically allow it. The other bill that you're speaking of was, I believe, not coordinated with VDOT as well, and would have been create a hodgepodge where it would have created the authority for localities to implement that in their jurisdictions. I believe that there was surprisingly strong opposition from VDOT on the allowing bicyclists to use the leading pedestrian interval. And my request of you specifically, Heidi, is that if you can go back and try and figure out what that opposition is. And I mean, I'm happy to talk to you offline about that as well, about how we think that the opposition, when you really think through the situations, isn't going to, there's the amount of times where you would have a troublesome interaction would be almost zero. And that wouldn't add, it would definitely not be adding to danger.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I will try to ask around and see what I can find out.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Heidi. John, you have a question.
Oh yeah, and thanks very much for hosting this really helpful webinar. So my question is, I biked a lot on the W&OD trail, and there's some access points along that access trails, which are, obviously they put a lot of thought and effort into putting the access trails in there, but the problem tends to be that they don't go back and clean them periodically because they get broken glass and nails and debris and all that kind of stuff. And I was just curious, for this new trail, is there some system they're going to have for going out and cleaning the trail periodically? Because I could just see, broken glass or plastic debris. If there's an accident on 66, plastic debris goes flying and rubber, and I was just curious if you have a system for cleaning this trail.
I think Susan had kind of addressed that, in that there may not be regular sweeping, but I think she was going to find out more. What we've found is probably the best way to do it is just to report to my VDOT. But that's a huge issue. We think it's underfunded. We've met with the maintenance staff, some FABB reps, and we've talked about this issue. It's not only the trails, it's bike lanes that don't get swept often enough. And we think it's a matter of priority, that our board of supervisors needs to say to VDOT that we think it's a priority and we want to fund that maintenance. But anyway, I'll get off my horse and see if Susan or Heidi want to comment.
I mean, the one thing I would just say is that this is a new type of facility for us. We don't have trails on interstates anyplace else that I know of. So I think there will be some learning curve to, a type of facility like this that's adjacent to, traffic, this type of traffic. So, I'm sure that we'll be getting experience and learning, what the maintenance needs really are. On a trail like this. It's quite different from, say, some of the other situations you just described, Bruce, that are more typical of what we have. So, I think we'll have some learning curve as we move forward.
Well, hopefully VDOT can work with Arlington County, which has dealt with this some on their I66 section, the Custis Trail, that they maintain, and they do a pretty good job of maintaining it. I'll just note that Mark Warno commented, Mark is one of the folks that's been helping us with working with VDOT maintenance, is that VDOT, when we report it to my VDOT, it doesn't always get handled, but personally, I've found that they do a pretty good job. It's just underfunded and under prioritized.
Well, one thing I noted too, living up north, they have special plows that are just the right size to go down a sidewalk and plow the sidewalk. And so I don't know if haven't researched it, but I wonder if there are devices that are the right size, like a street cleaner that would go down and is the right size to fit on a bike trail. It might be worth investing in something like that, because I can't imagine going out there with dustpans or however else they're going to clean the trail.
Yeah, good point. All right, thanks, John. All right, Alexa.
Bruce, you just went on mute.
Sorry, yeah, any final questions or comments, Alexis?
I don't think we have anything. Any questions, some comments about the maintenance here in the chat, but I think we're all caught up.
Can I just say one other thing about the maintenance?
Sure.
I didn't see your hand there, Sean, sorry.
No, I just put it up. It's okay. So if you see something that's an issue, please report it. And if you report it and you get a ticket number for it, post it somewhere that other people in FABB can see. And if you post it somewhere that other people that FABB can see, and you check on it and you're not getting responses, let other people know. And I know that VDOT tracks their tickets. I know that they have a system for that. I know that they are responsive to that. But if it's not being tracked and it's not being addressed and it's not something they have funding for, or some other issue is preventing it, we need to work together to either push to get them the funding they need, to whatever the case may be, submit the ticket, track the ticket, share the ticket.
All right, good point. Thanks, John. Sonia.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to a couple of things I put in there. Follow up on the conversation about Sandberg as an alternative to Gallows. I guess I'm wondering, and I don't know if there's somebody on the call from any of the agencies, or if this is a FABB advocacy need. But what can we do to open up that pedestrian cut through to make that a more accessible route for bicycling as an alternative? One, and the other one was for the Gallows shared use path. Could just fixing it up and repaving it be a short-term improvement? Now that the I66 trail is opening up, until we can get those larger, more important multimodal improvements along Gallows. So I guess those were two things. And how do we better connect to the WNOD? And is there something we can advocate or push for or start a process to make happen?
Well, FABB certainly can advocate. Heidi, any thoughts about the best way for us to go about advocating for that?
So it looks like Sandberg crossing area. I haven't been out there myself, but I would say that would probably be a county issue to get a shared use path connecting those two streets. I would imagine that it might require some kind of agreement with the neighborhoods or something. It looks like it might be kind of neighborhood land, would be my guess, because the streets end. Mm-hmm. I will, we don't have a shared use path or bike ped maintenance program, as Bruce has alluded to. Repaving of trails is, I would not say, like the Gallows Road shared use path, that would not really be a quick or easy or short-term effort. But I can try to bring up any other activities like brush cutting or something that would help on Gallows Road, because that is an important connection. We want to promote regional connectivity and connecting to the WNOD. So I will bring that up where I can. I think that was the two main points. Okay.
Thanks, Heidi. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on the county side, I will also follow up with Lauren Delmer. So just to see what has been done or what will be done on the county side for that topic. So
great, thank you. Well, with that, I think we've answered most of the questions or addressed most of the questions. Again, I want to thank Susan, Bruce, Heidi, Justin, Yiching, for your update. As I said, we're really looking forward to this, and it's a great project. And so thanks again. Any final announcements or comments that anyone has? If not, thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. Thanks everybody for your presentations.
Thanks for having us.
All
Thank you.
right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.